Hey guys, whoo, my hair is a mess today. Jen here. I'm in cinematic mode because I'm trying a different way of filming the front filming because they're so grainy it drives me nuts. But we are back here doing another day in Brevard County. We are at the Brevard Museum of Science and History here in Cocoa, Florida. This museum is really cool because it is free. So let's get in and check it out.
Hey guys, need a stroller while you're here in the Orlando area on vacation? Stay tuned to the end of the video for a very special offer.
So it also has a display of what the houses looked like back then. With some of the furniture they would have had, clothes they worn. Very cool. This is interesting. They even have a book with Braille. So you can see what it's like. Ooh, dinosaurs. Very cool. So this is, oh, I like when you can touch. It does say please touch. This is a mammoth fossil. Very cool.
That's a tooth. Feel how heavy that is.
And this is, ooh, wow, that's a mammoth tooth. And they want to bring these back. They're cloning these. This seems like a terrible idea. So this is an example of some of the animals that we had here. Apparently we had, oh no, that's a replica from La Brea of a direwolf. Never mind. There were candids and felines that did exist around here, but I guess I don't have any actual fossils of them. Okay, so here we go. So this is an example of one of the saber-toothed cats that lived in Florida during the Pleistocene. And wow, they only became extinct about 11,000 years ago. That's interesting. So they were about a foot shorter than current living lions, but twice as heavy. This is what's called a giant ground sloth, and that looks nothing like a sloth I've seen. That would be terrifying to meet in person. So these also lived in Florida during the Pleistocene. Approximately 11.8 to 11.7 thousand years ago. They lived for approximately 130, wait, what? Oh, this specific one, they said was about 130,000 years ago. So this was from the Daytona bone bed, and they say that back in 1975, and the sloth that was used to create this cast is considered one of the best preserved specimens in the world. So that's interesting. Much like they explained in the other dinosaur museum, you got to remember that this is the bone part of the claw. The actual claw was on top of that and was about like this much bigger. So if you multiply this by 2, that's about how big the actual claw was. So this big boy is an American mastodon, and these also existed in the Pleistocene in Florida. And back in the Pleistocene, because the top half of the country was still pretty much glacial, this was a much cooler and drier area, which created more of a savanna, like African type habitat, which is why a lot of these things could exist. It's interesting, they have several different dinosaur shark teeth from different times. So like this is from the Eocene, the Oligocene, the early Miocene, the Megalodon, which is from the late Miocene. And look at how it's changed, because that's a Megalodon tooth and that's a great white shark from now. So look at how much smaller they've gotten. It's crazy. And this is cool. there's a YouTube channel called Digging Science, and it shows how they find the fossils. I'll insert a picture if you want to scan the QR code right here. So imagine the great white sharks we have today being this size. That's crazy. This is the jaw of a megalodon, and this is actually a very small megalodon jaw, because I've seen ones that, like, I can literally stand inside and the top and bottom of the jaw are still bigger than me. And then off in the corner there's a little room. Oh, look at all the little skulls. Very cool. And Kay's playing with all the drawers. So what are we doing in here?
It's mostly pottery and some bones of some.
Oh, so it's all like different things they found, the archaeologists have
Yeah.
found. Very cool. Oh, those drawers are all empty. And this just talks about
Would be cool. This was all glass.
all the
You
different
could stand
ceramics.
inside the jaw of the shark.
This is really cool. They've actually made a map of Florida out of shark's teeth, and even found enough that they were able to make some animals to go with it. And actually, shark tooth hunting is a thing that a lot of people do here in Florida. You can find, there are groups, if you search it, there are groups that do it where if you're down here on vacation, you can book a trip to go out with somebody who does this. And actually, I mean, you can come home with hundreds of shark teeth. And now we're heading into the ooh, this looks like a playground, the Discovery Room.
Yeah.
So here's an example of a settler's village. Well, house. Oh, look, they got a gator. Okay, so this is just like a little tree hut. And just like a little, oh, that's cool. All right, I'm totally pushing buttons. Can you push the buttons? Oh, you can. When you push buttons, stuff happens. I don't know how to do that. I can't do anything with that. What other buttons can I push? Oh, you can push buttons. I love pushing buttons. And now it's not a fully circular museum, so it's one half then the other half. So now you have to walk back through the front to get to the other half of the museum. Wow, I totally thought this was a piece of driftwood, but it's actually a right lower jawbone of a whale from a blue whale or fin whale. They also have a whole other selection of different shells, and it even tells you what each shell is. And some of these you can find occasionally washed up on the beach, which is kind of cool. Like some of the smaller cowries and stuff you can find on the beach. Oh, that's cool. They have all different size scallops from like the teeny tiny babies all the way up. You find a lot of scallop shells on the beaches here. Lots and lots of scallop shells. Oh, it's cool how those are all different colors. Oh, I found some beautiful in like this color scheme on the beaches. So these are called Seminole dolls, and these were made to exhibit the types of clothing that the Seminole and Muscogee Indians would wear. They're absolutely beautiful. I love this one with the little beadwork on it. Look at that little baby. So cute. And if you're anywhere on the west coast near Tarpon Springs, you will see a lot of these. Because Tarpon Springs is like the sea sponge capital of the world. And this is a sea sponge. They have this beautiful mural, like from when the Spaniards came. And it's really long. It covers like the entire length of the wall. And I'll have to go back to the beginning because the whole other side of the wall has like space exploration stuff. This is kind of like the evolution, because now we're into steam engines and then all the way up to the space race. So now we have kind of like the history of the space race, which is really cool. I mean, it talks about the first spacecraft in space from the USSR, Luna 1. Then it has the first monkeys in space. Well, actually, I don't know if these are the first. They're the first primates to survive suborbital space flight. And the first man was Yuri Gagarin in 1961. The first American. Okay, so Yuri went up in April, and then a month later, Alan Shepard was the first American in space. Very cool. Russia actually sent up the first woman in space on June 16th, 1963. And here it is. This is the crew from Apollo 11 that actually landed on the moon. It was Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Buzz Aldrin. Very cool. So if you've ever seen the movie with Tom Hanks, this is the actual crew from the Apollo 13 with the famous Houston, we have a problem came through. But it's kind of cool to see the face behind the movie. So back in the 1850s, when the citrus industry was just starting to boom here in Florida, it was just starting to get created, a lot of families came south with hopes of riches and came over from, I think, like London and stuff like that, with hopes of getting rich in the citrus industry. But because it was such an isolated area, everybody lived basically in shacks, in huts, thatched roof huts like this. So this is actually a replica of the Roberts house, which was actually a very wealthy family from, I believe they said London. But because there just was no access down here, they had to use what they had, which was just chopping down the local trees and the palm fronds to make their homes. So interesting, apparently turpentine was made here in Florida, and apparently it was actually terrible for the environment, because they did this back in the 1960s before, you know, there was really any regulations on anything. And they would literally just bury the toxic chemicals. And it doesn't say what year, it doesn't say when, but at some point, a buried pine tar patch was hit by construction workers near Gainesville, and it turned the Springstead Creek into a black and sticky waterway, and residue still remains in the creek 30 years later. But this is basically how they kind of made turpentine. They did cuts in the trees so that the sap would leak in, and then they used that sap, they would separate it out. They had ways to do it, and that's basically how they made turpentine. But I mean, it like destroyed the forests. So apparently this is actually not the original way to harvest turpentine. The original way is they just cut a box out of the tree, which would kill the tree eventually, but they would harvest the sap out of it. And apparently this way, it's called the cat face cut. This didn't kill the trees, so they could consistently collect the sap for the turpentine. And here's a little history of the Florida citrus and kind of like the different companies that existed back then and the different types of citrus that we have here. Very cool. So then in the 1700s, there was a revolution down here because Flagler brought the railroad. So that means supplies could get down here, building supplies, like all that kind of stuff. So they went from those shacks that we saw from the Rogers family to actual homes. So then we got to the point where we could have actual buildings and shops, and they could get like true supplies. And very cool. And this is kind of what an old general store would look like down here. Very neat. That rocking horse is adorable. Oh, this is really cool. It's like a whole town they built in here. So now we're coming up on the old schoolhouse. Very cool. So this is a replica of a one-room schoolhouse. And then we have an organ. And then we have, I don't know what this is, a notary. So I guess this is the bank. Look at how tiny it is. Too funny. So this is apparently the only exhibit of the Wendover people that exists. So this is such an important find archaeologically because these are the oldest ritualistic burials that have ever been discovered. So it shows that they lived in family units, they cared for their sick and their elderly, and they were very lovingly and carefully buried. And keep in mind, this was done like almost 8,000 years ago. So the Wendover people existed before King Tut, before the pyramids of Giza were built. These people existed. And as you can see how the person is wrapped, they were actually wrapped when they were discovered, and these are some of the oldest textiles like ever to be discovered, which is just unbelievable that it was right here in Florida. So this is really cool. They showed that they have multiple different variants of weaving for people so old that existed so long ago that it's pretty impressive that they didn't just use one thing. Like, it shows that they actually had different designs, so it leads to believe it's more than just survival, that they actually made garments for different needs. And here's a sample of the actual cloth as they found it and exposed it. And I mean, it's just amazing that it survived. So I'm looking here, standing inches from probably the oldest fabric ever recovered in the Western Hemisphere and possibly the world. Because again, this piece of fabric is older than the pyramids in Egypt. And then this is just a replica of kind of what the archaeological dig site would have looked like. And they painted a mural of it. And they found over 168 people here. Because they were well preserved, they were actually, I mean, there was like parts of like the brain still intact. They were able to discover what diseases they had back then, who was sick, who was healthy, of cause of unalivement. Very, very interesting. And then this here is an artistic representation of one of the Wendover women, and this is what they believe they would have looked like. They even have a button so you can make the train go. Oh, I love buttons. This is so much fun. But yeah, this is what like a settlement would have looked like.
Yeah.
It even changes tracks. So cool. Guys, I always say it, I'm really 12. Like, I just never grow up.
Wait to see the train layout in Hill City. Put this on the chain, man.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. But yeah, so this is basically what one of the little towns for the orange businesses would look like. There's the orange groves, that's like the distributor. They have the little stores, and then like the housing areas. And the very last room here is about the James Webb Hubble telescope. And it has a mini model of the Atlantis and how it would service the telescope. So that's another thing about coming to these free museums, is you never know who you're going to meet. And one of the docents here that we were just speaking with, his name is Mr. Rader, and he actually worked on the space shuttles. And he was saying these metal shields are actually radiation shields, and they had Freon inside of them, and they would use those to cool the computer systems on the inside. And he had to tell us way more than I will ever remember to post, but we got like a whole lesson on how they flew the space shuttles and how they protected it from the heat of the sun, and it was just like amazing. And he was telling us about like some of the future of SpaceX and some of the things they're planning, and that's the stuff I really like. I really like learning like more behind it, of talking to the people who are here every day. And then in case you can't get out to Kennedy Space Center while you're here, they actually have a replica of the Hubble telescope here, of what it would look like up in space. And then basically this is how they protected it on the trip out. They just put it in a big box. Oh yeah, Clay told me about this last time she was here. This is an actual time capsule that was sealed on September 7th, 1976, and won't be opened until the tricentennial in 2075. And this is also just a really fun little addition. One of the other volunteers here had this old Tonka truck collection, and he just lets the museum display it. And it's really kind of fun to see all the old Tonka trucks. And they also have on top, they have a lot of train magazines. In the back room there, the first Saturday of every month, that entire room is a giant model train set up, and they open it to the public, but only on the first Saturday of every month. And we found another free museum. Our second spot of the day is the Brevard Veterans Memorial Center and Museum. It's right on the edge of, this is the Banana River, right? I think, of the Banana River, and also has boop, 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 this really cool little park that has some static displays. It has a couple tanks, some military vehicles, and some helicopters. So this is really cool. I've never seen this on a museum before. They have the front half of the helicopter on the front with the mural showing how they would drop troops off. Very cool. And they even have the window open so you can really see in and like check it out. So this is a really cool museum. They actually have really excellent signage where they talk about every war we've been in through up today in the war on terrorism. And it's all like really nicely laid out. Upstairs they have like different military history and uniforms and stuff. And there's even a third floor here with a big chunk of the USS Arizona and an observation deck. And this is free, folks, which is awesome. Well, this is some absolutely beautiful examples of what's called trench art. And this is where they would take the shells and they would make designs on them and make them fancy. Look at that. Oh, wow. That's beautiful. So this is cool. I haven't filmed a lot of the first floor because it's a lot of military weaponry and I don't know with YouTube's rules how that would go. But here is a setup of what a bivouac would have looked like during the Korean War, which is really cool. And my grandfather actually served. He was a paratrooper, so he was a medic, so he would have been in something like this during the Korean War. So it's kind of cool to see like what he lived in during it. Now this is very cool. Do you remember how many museums he said actually had these? Oh, it's one of only 37 installed. This is an actual submarine periscope taken out of a submarine and installed into this building. Let's see. Can you see outside?
No.
No. So the cool thing is, this is legit. They have the focus disabled, but it is a true 360 view, and you can actually see like Cocoa Beach, because we're on Merritt Island right now. We're in between Cocoa and Cocoa Beach, and it is like so cool to see. Yes. So this is cool up here. This is kind of like a history of the uniforms of all the different military branches, and they have them all on display. This is cool that they even have an almost like maternity type uniform for women. So totally not military history, but I absolutely love these benches. They're American flags and they're beautiful. I would love something like this like for myself. This is kind of amazing. This is an actual piece off the USS Arizona that sank during Pearl Harbor, and it even shows you where from the boat they got it from. That's really cool. So the third floor has the piece of the Arizona, and then it has this viewing deck where you can go outside and you can get a good look at the static display area. They also have a boardwalk that we're going to walk over to and check out as well. And right there, that's the top of the periscope that I look through. That is so cool. So outside of the museum, it's super windy all of a sudden, so I apologize for the noise, but there is this gorgeous boardwalk right along the Banana River. And there's actually a little airport right there, so we've been watching planes take off, and we're watching a pelican fly by. And this is salt water, so there is a chance you may see dolphins out here. I don't know how often you can or not though. So the sun came out and you can see how clear this water is. Oh my gosh, it's so pretty. He's just a little baby. He's only about probably a hand's width across. I'm zoomed in pretty far so you guys can see him. But like when I zoom out, like he's pretty tiny. He's so cute. So now we're heading into the Veterans Memorial Plaza. Oh, here's the garden shaped like a star right here, Kay. See the star? So they have a static display Huey. Then they also have a Cobra helicopter on static display. They even have a display here for all the war dogs and their handlers, which is kind of cool. I've never seen one of these before. They have one of the naval planes. I didn't see a plaque for this one, so off the top of my head, I don't know what it is. And then I wish Jeremy was here because he knows his tanks. And then this one actually has a little placard. So this is what they call a deuce and a half military truck. And it just has, I think that's a water storage tank. Yeah, water storage on the back of it. And they have this beautiful Vietnam memorial here. That's this gorgeous four-sided marble.
If you like these videos, please click that subscribe button, tap the like, and ring that notification bell so you always know when a new video is headed your way. Thank you so much for watching, and now we're on to the next adventure. Bye guys!
Today's video brought to you by Orlando for Families. For amazing prices and even better customer service on all of your stroller rental needs for your Orlando vacation, visit them at the website listed below, www.orlandoforfamilies.com. Use the promo code OHANA to save 15% off of their already competitive prices.